1. This is an older story. Let me explain, because I know your curiosity is running wild. A while ago, there was a trend on TikTok about kids going to people's ranches and letting their animals free. As all other trends, this one is deadly because you might get shot. I have a piece of property a little ways from my home that holds cows that I'm planning to keep. It's a good 50 acres. I have quite a bit of head there. Well, one night around 3 a.m., I was asleep in my warm, cozy bed, and I get a call from the person neighboring that property. "Dude, you better get over here right now." "Why, what's wrong?" "I don't know. There's someone or something in your pasture and your cattle are going wild." Well, shit. I got out of bed and threw my clothes on. I grab my gun and my dog. I hop in the truck and haul ass to the property. I get there and sure enough, there is someone fucking Chevy Equinox sitting at the edge of my property. I drive over to see some kids in my pasture with all the cattle running, and a male and female in the car recording them. I drive in there, grab my gun, and shout to them, "Just what in the hell do you think you're doing?" "Nothing, bro. Relax." Don't tell me to relax. What the fuck are you doing? "Chill. We're just gaining some clout, that's it." Cue the entitled parent. "Hey, leave my boys alone." "Hey, city slicker. What the hell do you think you're doing at 3 a.m. sneaking into my property?" "We're gonna get a lot of likes on this, man. Please, dude, just leave us alone. You've ruined it." "Fuck off. Leave. You're lucky I don't shoot you or my dog didn't get a hold of you."
"Like your dog."
"Excuse me? I don't believe I heard you."
"I said, fuck your shitty dog."
This kid has the audacity to pick up a rock and throw it at my dog. She was in the bed of the truck, and it missed her. But this plumb pissed me off. So I stick my head out the window and go sss, which is the sound I make to sicker on something, or in this case, someone. She's a blue heeler, so she's a herding dog. So she took off to go nibble on his ankles, which is how she gets cows to go the way she wants them to go. But when she did it to these kids, it just scared the piss out of them.
"You fucking dog off me, he's biting me."
Don't worry, son. It's a long ways from your heart. I was laughing my ass off while these kids were practically pissing themselves. I was too, because of how hard I was laughing.
"Get your dog off my baby,"
Says the mom.
"We just wanted to make a video, asshole. Nobody would be sad if you killed yourself. Fuck you."
Her kids made it back to her car, and when they got in, she told me,
"You'll be hearing from my lawyers very shortly."
Long story short, I never heard from her lawyers. I never saw her again, nor heard anyone do anything like that again in my area. I love telling everyone this story because of this bitch watching her kids get humbled. Big shout out to my dog Loretta for scaring the piss out of these kids and for not letting my cattle get loose. Love you, girl. High among the stars. Miss you, girlie. Anyways, hope you guys had a good laugh. Oh, and when I originally posted this story on Reddit, a Karen told me in the comments that I need to go to the mental hospital because I had my dog chase some kids. And because I own a gun, but wait, there's more. She told Reddit that I was suicidal, and had Reddit support ask me about me being suicidal. Fucking Karens. 2. Context. This happened nearly 20 years ago, in my last year before college. The way our school years are separated differs from both the USA and Europe or the rest of Canada. The important thing is that year teaches 16 to 17-year-olds. Your daughter is a monster, or the first time I was ever sent to the principal's office. I was part of a special program aimed at higher degrees of science and technology than the usual curriculum. To stay in that program, a student had to maintain good grades, couldn't fail a class, needed to do all their homework on a computer. It wasn't really common at the time, and be on their best behavior at all time during school. In 5 years, the program went from 3 full class groups to less than half one. We weren't used to being mixed with other students from other programs or from regular classes because we had less time in core classes and more in science and technology. But in our last year, They had no choices but to mix us in because of how small our group had gotten. That's when I met Shy Girl. She had taken advanced biology class as an optional class. We weren't friends or anything, we had just met, but she was nice enough. The teacher, the EP of this story, was new to our school, and to put it bluntly, wasn't very good at her job. She liked to say that the reason so many students had failed the first exam was because she was French and we hadn't made an effort to understand her. In the second month of class, she decided to pick Shy Girl to answer a question. Shy Girl mumbled an answer, and even though I was in the row right before her, even I didn't understand what she had said. EP exploded. I don't think there's a better description of the screams and insults that came out of her mouth. She also turned a weird purplish color I had never seen on a human face before. Everything came out of her mouth, how Shy Girl was, well, I won't repeat what she said, but it started with R, how she should be in special ed class, how ugly she was. I stood up and told her to stop bullying the Shy Girl. EP turned her ire on me. The thing is, she couldn't complain about my class performance, so instead she turned to insulting the class. More people started to get up. One dude threw his pencil case at her, and her screams cranked up. She would have put a banshee to shame. She yelled until she ran out of gas and expected us to just apologize and sit back down, accept the after-school detention she had given us until Christmas break, and shut the fuck up, her words. Shy Girl was crying at this point. I packed my stuff up, and EP yelled at me some more. I packed the Shy Girl's stuff, took her by the arms, and started to walk her out of the class.
And where do you think you're going, miss?
Away from a bully. Who loves me follows me. I walked out of the class, slamming the door. The teacher next door asked if we were okay, and I just told him I was going to the principal's office. He gestured me to be on my way, and then the rest of my class exited the class. Without speaking, we all went to our common area, which coincidentally was right in front of the principal's office. It was empty when we arrived. He had been called elsewhere. Imagine his shock when he was greeted by 30 students all waiting in front of his office. We explained the situation. He told us to stay in the common area for the rest of the class, and he would talk to EP. You think that's the end of the story? No. The best is what follows. The principal called my mom into a meeting between him, EP, my mom, and me. In my whole school career, this was the first and only time I was called to the office. My mom was exasperated. Not you too. I've had enough of being called every other week for one of your brothers. We're here today because EP says your daughter cursed at her. Honestly, possible that I did. I have quite a mouth on me, but I don't remember if I did or not. Didn't remember at the time either. I can see that she could. Yeah, she did know me well enough to know that I could curse like a sailor when angry. The story I got from other students and EP are extremely different. It was apparently the 5th meeting that day about the incident, all demanded by EP. That's when she blew up again, started crying and screaming all at once.
Your daughter is a monster. Me, madam,
talking to my mom.
I have 3 children. I have 3 children, madam. I have 3 children and I never hurt them. Because me, am a mom. I have 3 children.
For a whole 5 minutes, she went on and on about having 3 children and being a mom, nothing else. My mom said, "Look, I have 3 children too. If you say my kid cussed you out, I believe you. She's not an angel." My mom was trying to calm EP and get her to be able to talk sense. EP kept going on and on about being a mom to 3 kids, and that she was entitled to see us all punished for that, because with her being a mom to 3 kids, she couldn't have done anything to any of us. She wanted me expelled. In fact, she wanted the whole class expelled.
None of you deserve for me to impart my knowledge with you because I am a mom to 3 kids.
She got up and left the office, slamming the door. Not again. This is the 4th time today. The only meeting she hasn't done it was the first one this morning. He went on to explain that he had another 10 meetings with other parents and students from the class later in the day, and he wasn't looking forward to it. He told my mom to disregard anything EP said, but that he had to get her back for the rest. It took him nearly half an hour to get her back, somewhat calm. Here's my plan for the rest of the year. He spoke to me. You will stay in the library during class time. During exams, you will be accompanied by a teacher's assistant. As soon as you're done with the exams, you will leave the class quietly. He asked my mom if she was okay with the arrangement. Yes.
She should be expelled. I want her to be expelled because I have 3 kids and I don't deserve that.
She stormed off again. The meeting stopped there. I didn't even get to say a word. The worst is, if she had been calm during that meeting and talked to my mom like a normal person, I would have been in it deep. My mom's the type of parent to trust whatever a teacher said and to just punish us harshly for it. But that woman was so insane that she bought me an ice cream on the way back home. The rest of the year was passed in the library for me during that class, except for exams. The teacher's assistant was assigned to the class permanently after another incident. The dude who threw the pencil case confirmed he did do it. He was suspended for 1 day and joined me in the library. EP was fired at the end of the year after she blew up accusing and trying to expel a class of 12-year-olds for being the reason CPS was taking an interest in her parenting. She accused them personally of being responsible. I think she got CPS attention off her own merit at home. Everyone I knew all confirmed that meeting with EP, nice principal, their parents, and them went the same way mine did. I haven't much to say about the other incident, it's pure hearsay, but a kid questioned her on whatever she was teaching. She blew up, saying he was asking questions on purpose to rile her up. 3. Last month I took a flight back home after visiting my parents. Boarding time, I walked to my seat, 23A. There was already someone sitting there. I had to double-check, make sure it's the 23rd row. Yep, I was right. So I told the lady sitting there, "It's my seat." Suddenly, a man in 23D offered me the 23E seat. Turns out they're a family, and the mother didn't want to be separated from her children, who were in 23B and 23C. So she took my seat. I was confused. It not like she'd be long separated from her children. The children were in 23B to 23C. She and her husband in D to E. Only separated by an aisle. Obviously, I refused. I specifically booked a window seat. It would help me feel ease looking at the clouds and helping me fall asleep. The seat they offered me to trade was the middle seat, trapped between the dad and a random man who was in 23F in a narrow airplane seat. Nope. I feel suffocated already. I flatly replied, "No, I booked the window seat." The mother immediately felt offended. She replied harshly,
"So you don't mind we, a family, sitting separately?"
"Well, why didn't you book the right seats in the first place?" Didn't say this out loud, though. I only repeated my words, "That's my seat." I was adamant with my answer. Finally, she's up, walking away from my seat with angry words she whispered silently towards me. I chose not to pay attention to them. However, things changed afterwards. Her children were still sitting in B and C. Obviously, I could not walk into my seat. I asked them to politely get out of there so I could get in. And what did the mother do? Body shame me.
"Kids, get up. Her body is huge. She can't get in."
My height is above the average women's height in my country. Plus, I gained like 10 kilograms in the pandemic. I have body dysmorphia already. Comments like those hurt my feelings badly. With that comment, I couldn't stay silent. I replied, "So what? So what if I'm huge?" She did not silence easily. She kept on and on with the insults towards me, even louder. Her daughter silently and with blatant panic whispered at me, "Please forgive my mother. She's always like that." Her daughter, who I assumed no more than 12 years old, looked sincere. It helped tune out the angry insults from the aisle beyond because I felt bad for her. The angry tirade stopped around 5 minutes later, when the mother told her kids to move seats a few rows away. Once more, her daughter pleaded apology to me. It's crazy to think that a 12-year-old was way more emotionally mature than her entitled 40s mother. The entire time, her mother spouted insults at me. The daughter looked pale and her body rigid, her gaze fixed upon one spot. I assume she was very embarrassed. Poor kid. 4. It's a beautiful Saturday, but it's too cold to take the kids to the park. So husband and I decided to take the kids to a children's museum. We were having a great time with my daughter 5 and my son 2. My daughter goes and plays with her dad while my son clings to my hip. We head over to a 3 and under section of the museum and just vibe there. So far, so good. After 30 minutes, we're passing toys to each other, and all the other kids around and parents are super helpful and nice. It felt like a village and all the parents are watching the kids. Well, EM and ED with their twin boys, Bowlcut 1, Bowlcut 2, show up. One of the twins runs off with the dad. Then EM proceeds to sit and just ignore everyone, and even just stared at other kids who approached her. Not really a big deal, but really killing the communal parent vibe. Cool, whatever. Bowlcut 2 runs over and pushed a kid down and takes another girl's toy who's much younger. EM just looks at Bowlcut 1 and does nothing. Okay, whatever. Then 5 minutes later, at another part of the room, her son proceeds to push and bite another kid off the seesaw. And what does she do? Looks up and goes back to her phone. Okay, my senses are up. Homegirl does not give a shit about her Bowlcut kid's behavior. I'm no more than a foot from my toddler at this point, 3 families already left. I still stayed as my son is too small for any of the other attractions in the museum, so I just keep my distance from them. Well, that didn't work, because one runs over and bites my son's arm out of nowhere and attempts to grab his shirt and bring him down. My son screams, "Monster!" and I immediately pick up my son and her because one is biting my leg. I look at and say, "Hey, grab your kid! Grab your kid, lady!" Because I'm not catching a charge for touching someone else's child. She walks over and gently pulls her son to the side. I walk away, grabbing my stuff and telling my husband I'm taking my son home. As I'm grabbing my items, she walks over and says, "I don't appreciate you yelling at me." "Yeah, lady. How else was I supposed to get your attention of your dog? Also, you did nothing to prevent him hitting other children." "I have 2 kids, twin boys, so it's hard to watch them both." "Well, there's 2 parents present. You take one and he takes one. I have 2 children as well, that's no excuse." I proceed to walk away.
"He's just a child."
EM is trying to play victim as I embarrassed her by calling her out for her kid's behavior. "Okay, lady, get away from me. Go enjoy your Saturday with your kids."
"You disgusting teen mom of 2, how dare you, he's just a child."
"I'm 27. Please fuck off, respectfully."
"Profanity! Profanity!"
"Okay, old lady, bye," and I wave.
"I do not appreciate that."
She continues to come up to me and my son, don't know what she's saying, because I'm seeing red trying to leave the situation, and I proceeded to tell her, "Please leave me alone." My husband shows up, and she leaves with her husband and kids. EM ends up trying to find a staff worker to report me, and all the other parents who witnessed it said I was a hero and thanked me. I didn't feel like a hero, I just did what everyone else was thinking, and didn't want my son's day ruined. Well, security show up and tell me to leave as I was being aggressive. I remained cooperative and told them to review the camera footage. The staff worker ends up telling her she needs to leave because she wasn't properly supervising her children and for continuously harassing me after reviewing camera footage. The staff apologized for the inconvenience as I was framed as the aggressor and escorted by security with my son. 5. Me and my friends, the boys, had gone to a public park to go fishing. Now, we had been fishing for quite a while, around 3 hours. We had gotten food and gone back to our fishing spots. It had been a great day so far. We were at a spot where a lot of families walked by. We even had an old veteran teach us a few tricks for where to cast. Now, as we are chilling and having a laugh, our EP walks up with her demon child. We have had 1 or 2 other families walk up to us, and their children have shown interest. My friends are hesitant to let them touch their rods, but I'm pretty chill and will usually let them reel as I once was in their spot. Now this EP and her DC walk up to us and are interested. Now I was letting my rod sit and I picked up my knife because my friend said he needed it and he was replacing his hook and weight and needed to cut the line. The DC runs up as I'm picking the knife up and tries to grab the knife, which was probably a red flag. But I quickly scooped it up and gave it to my friend. I then went back to my chair and she walked over and looked very interested in my rod. And I, as I had done before, let her reel my rod. Now, this isn't cheap, and it held sentimental value as it was given to me by my father as a present from one of his friends who had sadly passed. So suffice to say, I don't want to lose it. As she's reeling, I tell her to stop, because the hook was getting close to the bank where there were a few roots and other things under the water that the hook would get snagged on. I asked her nicely to let me reel now, but she just kept reeling. Now I started to get worried because we had already lost a few hooks and were running a bit low, so I didn't want to be the one to lose another one. I gently pushed her off so that I could reel it in carefully. The girl, however, who was probably 8 or 9, acted as if I'd shoved her and started throwing a temper tantrum on the floor. I ignored to focus on reeling, and once I got it all reeled in, I prepared to cast again. However, right as I was about to cast, a little girl ran in front of my cast, which for self-explanatory reasons is pretty dangerous. I quickly pulled back, and in the process stabbed myself with the hook. Luckily, my friend had some antiseptic, which he quickly ran to get. The little girl started crying and screaming to her mommy, who the entire time had been on her phone. The EP looks up and storms over to me. This is roughly how the conversation goes.
Hey, what did you do to my daughter?
I didn't. She ran in front of me while I was casting.
Well, why didn't you let her cast?
Well, to be honest, I don't trust her to be able to handle my fishing rod.
Are you calling my daughter dumb? How dare you? Give me that rod right now.
No, this is my rod and I won't give it to you.
Give it to me right now or I will call the cops.
For what?
For fishing without a license and for hurting my child.
For one, we are legally allowed to fish here without a license, and 2, I didn't hurt her.
Yes, you did. I saw you push her.
I have 3 friends here who'll testify differently. By this time, my friend had returned with the antiseptic. I showed him the spot, and he started applying it to me. While I was distracted, the mother grabbed the rod out of my hands and handed it to her daughter. I panicked as the daughter was swinging the rod around trying to cast it. Luckily, I had locked the rod so that it couldn't cast. I could see she was getting angry and was about to throw my rod. I quickly ripped it out of her hands. In hindsight, I could have been more gentle, but I was hyped up on adrenaline and anger. The EP screamed at me, saying,
How dare you! Give that back to my daughter right now or I'll call the cops and have you arrested.
She then slapped me in the face and reached for my rod again. I quickly pulled my rod back. She then tried shoving me. Due to us being close to the bank, I stumbled back, but my friend caught me. By this point, I realized that my friend was recording, and I said, You know what? I'll call the cops. We'll see whose side they're on. Now, this EP had enough common sense to see that she wouldn't win this battle, and took her screaming child and walked off. We didn't catch a fish that day, probably because she scared them all off with her screaming. But it was a great day to hang out with the boys. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to The Impractical Broadness of Parents, Ipop, episode 108. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do boop the like button, thank you kindly. Okay, before we go, let's have Hellfreezer's question of the day, and today's question is there any habit you know you should cut back on, but you'll never do it unless you absolutely have to? Like in my case, I love caffeine, but I don't drink it anymore, at all. There's a new flavor of Red Bull, and I'm very tempted to try it, but I know if I did, I would not feel good about it, because my health is in such a place right now where I'm not feeling too bad right now. But if I was to have a cup of coffee, a can of Coke, a can of Red Bull, I would not be in a good place physically, and it would be quite ouchy, in fact. So, health determined I was giving up caffeine, and I feel pretty much the same as I did before it, which is interesting. So, let me know what you think. Do you have any habits you think you should probably give up, but you never will? Unless you have to. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.